Hello everyone. Today we are going to study the short story The Weed by Amrita Pritam. Read the introduction from the textbook, which is given as the appendix. She is a famous Punjabi writer. She wrote novels, short stories, essays, Punjabi folk songs, and an autobiography. She is the first woman recipient of Sahitya Academy Award in 1956 for the book Sunehre, meaning messages. She received Jnanpith in 1982 for her book Paper and Canvas. See the title, The Weed. Weed means a wild plant. The unwanted growth in a cultivated land is also called weed. The word is also used instead of tobacco and marijuana, a narcotic drug. In the story, weed is a substance that is used to attract somebody, to make somebody fall in love. The main characters are Anguri. The story is about a Punjabi village girl called Anguri. She is married to an old man called Prabhati. The story is told by a narrator who is the author herself. Let us go directly to the story. Listen carefully. The weed. Anguri was the new bride of the old servant of my neighbor's neighbor. Every bride is new for that matter, but she was new in a different way. The second wife of her husband, who could not be called new because he had already drunk once at the conjugal well. As such, the prerogative of being new went to Anguri only. This realization was further accentuated when one considered the 5 years that passed before they could consummate their union. See the expression, my neighbor's neighbor's neighbor. Anguri is not the bride of her neighbor's servant. This is done to distance the story from the narrator. She means the story took place far away from her. Also, notice the expression new bride. In fact, the word bride itself means newlywed girl. But why did she use new? This is because Anguri is the second wife of her husband. So she is new. He is not new. Only Anguri is new. He had already drunk from the conjugal well, that is, the well of marriage. The author tells that Anguri remained new for 5 years. That means their marriage was not consummated for 5 years. That is, no sexual union took place between them for 5 years. She remained a virgin even after marriage. About 6 years ago, Prabhati had gone home to cremate his first wife. When this was done, Anguri's father approached him and took his wet towel, wringing it dry, a symbolic gesture of wiping away the tears of grief that had wet the towel. There never was a man, though, who cried enough to wet a yard and a half of calico. It had got wet only after Prabhati's bath. The simple act of drying the tear stained towel on part of a person with a nubile daughter was as much as to say, I give you my daughter to take the place of the one who died. Don't cry anymore. I have even dried your wet towel. Cremate his wife means his wife died. He went to the funeral. Cremate, burn the body in a funeral pyre. Anguri's father was also present at the funeral. He symbolically dried the wet towel of the husband, meaning he tried to console him. But Prabhati's towel was not wet with tears. It had got wet only after his bath. This act of drying the towel meant Anguri's father wished to give Anguri's hand to this new widower. That meant he meant to give his daughter in the place of the one who died. This is how Anguri married Prabhati. However, the reunion was postponed for 5 years for two reasons: her tender age and her mother's paralytic attack. When at last Prabhati was invited to take his bride away, it seemed he would not be able to, for his employer was reluctant to feed another mouth from his kitchen. But when Prabhati told him that his wife could keep her own house, the employer agreed. At first, Anguri kept parda from both men and women, but the veil soon started to shrink until it covered only her hair, as was becoming to an old Orthodox Hindu woman. She was a delight to both ear and eye, a laughter in the tinkling of her 100 angle bells, and 1,000 bells in her laughter. See, thus Anguri and Prabhati was married. Why their sexual union was postponed for 5 years? Remember, this is an important question often asked for exams. There are two reasons. One, she was very young. Two, her mother was not well. Feed another mouth from his kitchen means the employer was not ready to take the expense of Anguri along with Prabhati. Slowly, Anguri became a typical Hindu woman. She was a delightful girl. She laughed like her angle bells.